After spending her 22nd birthday behind bars in a UAE prison, Roxanne Hillier is finally home. Her crime? Adultery and being in the same room with a man who is not her relative. Her co-accused and boss at the time was later acquitted of the sex charge. After spending 2 months in prison, she's relieved to be reunited with her extended family in Pretoria.
The first night I got out, I was so happy to see a bed, and I got on the bed, I was trying to sleep, but then I'm so used to this concrete and blankets that I did not feel so well on the bed. It was too soft, and then my mom sat on the bed, I was like, better lay still, I'm feeling seasick.
It was the dream job at first, diving in Khor Khan, a natural deep-water port in the Sharjah region of the United Arab Emirates.
There were clear blue waters and these great drop-offs and beautiful coral, and then mountains, desert and warm country. I was like sold and coming. For 6 months it was great. I loved it.
The saga began when the police stormed the dive center where Roxanne was staying over because her apartment had been flooded.
I heard loud voices outside the room, and everything's in loud, angry voices in Arabic, and I didn't know what to think. My door was locked. And when I heard these voices, I found the only thing I could, which happened to be a pencil. And I stood in one corner with this pencil, thinking, right, if they're breaking in, at least I'm going to go down with a fight.
With your pencil?
With my pencil. It wasn't very sharp, but I thought it would help. But they opened that door, and they all come in these white dresses. It was only when the female warden eventually stepped in that I thought, okay, police, this will all be over soon.
Roxanne was then forcibly taken to the local hospital to undergo an invasive medical examination.
I didn't know exactly what I was getting tested for until they'd lift the skirt. And I was like, excuse me, I do what? Then again, test with a probe here and a probe there. I cried after that. I was so humiliated.
Eventually, Roxanne discovered she had been accused of having sex with her boss under Sharia law. Even though the test proved she had not had intercourse, she was kept in detention during the court proceedings and denied bail.
There was 3 questions in English. Everything else was in Arabic. They called me in front. They asked me, did you have sex with him? I said no. They asked me, are you married? I said no. They asked me, were you alone in the room with him? I said no. The rest was all in Arabic.
The claim is that you initially confessed to having sex with your boss.
I'm not sure. Well, I said yes to a whole lot of things. Apparently I admitted to being Muslim as well. I'm not Muslim, I'm Christian. But it was all just thinking, say yes, say yes, say yes. I don't know what I was saying yes to most of the time. Every time in the morning when they'd call you out for the court, I'd start crying anew because then they'd put the nice bracelets on you and drag you to court. And then just that feel of that steel bracelets, and you'd feel once again trapped, and this is the lowest of low. It's scary. It was really, really scary.
Roxanne, what were you eventually found guilty of?
Being alone in a room with a man who is not my husband or my family relative. And I'm not sure if they convicted me on the sex crime, which if they did, I can't understand it, because then I'm guilty and he's not.
It's quite prevalent across the Muslim world, whether you're talking about, for example, in some of the northern states in Nigeria, to a place like Sharjah, to Pakistan. There's numerous cases where you have such accusations being made and the men get off. There actually is there's no technicality in the law that allows them to get off even. It's a simple kind of double standard.
Naeem Jina, a progressive Muslim activist and academic, is the executive director of the Afro-Middle East Center.
As in all countries around the world, legal processes do get manipulated. And it seems certainly in terms of the adultery charges here, if you look at Roxanne vis-a-vis her co-accused, there was that kind of manipulation of the process.
During Roxanne's ordeal, her family stayed close by her side. Friends lobbied for her release on Facebook, and the South African media focused on her case. We asked Roxanne about the part that the consulate played.
We were brought up because we've been expats for a while, that if something happens, first thing you do, you go to your embassy. They should help and protect you.
You can get help abroad if you contact the South African embassy, the High Commission, or the consulate.
Nomfanelo Kota is the spokesperson for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
In the end, they helped. But in the beginning, I felt lost. I felt abandoned. I thought, right, what's the point of being a South African if they're not going to help you when you're outside of the country? It was only afterwards it started picking up in the media that people started coming through to me.
Not only did the consulate take a while to respond, but Mr. Mahadeo, an official member of the South African consulate, made statements to the press saying the evidence against Roxanne was overwhelming.
We do not have a policy of speaking about individual cases, and I'm not prepared.
But if it's your policy not to comment, then why does Mr. Mahadeo comment publicly and say that she's guilty?
More than 2,000 officials of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. It might be that 99% of those officials adhere and comply with the policy.
The South African government spends more than 100 million rand a year returning illegal immigrants and foreign criminals to their countries. But that doesn't apply to South African citizens convicted of crimes overseas.
South Africa does not interfere with the other sovereign states' laws. The laws of other countries remain as such, as much as the laws of the Republic apply to South African nationals here. So we don't interfere with laws of other sovereign states because they don't interfere with ours.
It was quite funny. I asked one of the guards one night, I was sitting there, I was asking her, so if you guys are not allowed to date and you guys don't do any of this, how do you end up finding a husband? She turned around, she told me, no, we do date. We do have boyfriends. We just don't tell anyone.
We approached the UAE embassy for an interview. They said they were reluctant to talk specifically about Roxanne's case, and there was little chance of an interview in the near future.
It's not good enough to say, I'm South African. Ignorance of the law, like in any country, is not a good enough excuse. And I think people really need to acquaint themselves with those laws.
So what would you say to any other young women going over to the UAE to work?
Make yourself aware of the laws beforehand. I'd say to them, stand their ground, respect the religion, but don't sign anything without the lawyer.